It's Kristen. Today I'm going to show you how you can make a realistic looking book in Photoshop with just some shapes and some shadowing to create dimension to your pages. Here I'm going to be making I'm using some Traveler's Notebook templates by designs by Soko, and just by adding some shadows and such, I'm making it look like a realistic book. These are the Traveler's Notebook templates that I'm using, along with It's the Little Things kit that Soko has for the papers and the elements to embellish my page. But the templates that I'm going to be using is this template here and this template, and putting them side by side, I'm going to be creating this little booklet page. And with using some additional shapes and duplicating some papers, etc., it's going to make it look like a physical book. Basically, it's manipulating the shadows is where the biggest thing is, that and the shapes as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you just a few of the steps that I've used to create this, just with the shape tool. I used the rounded rectangle tool from the custom shapes here for this, for these little two flaps here, so it'll look like the closures of the book. I added a circle custom shape for like a clasp, and I've used a rounded rectangle tool that I ended up attaching papers to for the book cover. And then of course I've added some shadows just so that you can see what I've done here to create this page. I'm going to go ahead and open a new workspace, and I'm going to flood fill that with white. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to utilize my rounded rectangle tool. That tool is nestled here with the custom shape tool. And if you click on your rounded rectangle tool, you'll see here up at the top toolbar, it's reflecting shape. I want to just change the fill color to gray. And let's go ahead and begin. I'm just going to draw out my shape on my workspace. And it's going to put it on a separate layer because it's utilizing the shape tool. And this puts in the rounded corners. Now down here you can change the size of the round corner. I'm going to make it 10, and because this link is selected, it's going to make all corners 10 at the same time. Otherwise, if you just wanted each corner different dimension, different pixels, you can go ahead and do so just by unchecking this link. But as long as this link is together, it'll make all the same size. And I just pressed the enter key and it just made them all 10. So it gives a smaller round dimension to the corner. Now I'm okay with that. And as you can see, it's reflecting here in the corner that it's a smart object. I just want to right click with my mouse and convert that, rasterize that, so that it'll change it from a shape to a regular element. So now I'm just going to move that into the center. So now I'm happy with that. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a shadow. It doesn't matter what size it is. I just have a small paper shadow that I've made. I'm just going to double click on that just to bring up the opacity just a little bit on my shading of my shadow. I'm good with it being at a 45-degree angle, the distance and the size being 4 and size being 5. And I press OK. Now with my mouse, I'm going to click on the drop shadow. I want to put this on its separate layer so I can adjust the shadowing. I'm just going to click on Create Layer. And that places the shadow on a separate layer. Selecting the actual shape layer and we'll just turn the eye off on the shadow. I'm just going to adjust the shape with the transform tool. So go to edit, transform, and warp. And what this does is it brings up the grid. You're going to use these little transform handles, and just by bringing the top ones down just a little bit, you want a little bit of a bow here at the top. Make sure they're even. And then at the bottom, just bring those up a little bit to bend your square up a little bit. And then click the check mark or the move tool. And as you can see, it has bowed it just slightly. You want to do the same with the shadow. We're going to manipulate the shadow a few different ways. The first way is with the transform tool. And again, with the warp, you want to bring that up just a little bit using those handles from the bottom. Bring it down up at the top because you don't want too much of a shadow. This is for realistic shadows. The corners you can bring down just a little bit. And this top corner you just want to bring over to the side just a little bit so it peeks out. And again, we're going to press the check mark. As you can see, it's already started to bow out a little bit. Now I'm going to refine it a little bit with the smudge tool over here in your tool palette. The smudge tool is the bottom one. It's with the blur and the sharpen tool. It's nestled in there. So you just want to grab the smudge tool. And using the keyboard, left bracket would make your tool smaller. The right bracket key would make it larger. So I'm just using those just to do that. And then I'm just going to, with the smudge tool, just bring it up just a little bit. The corners I'm going to just bring down just a little bit so it looks like it's bending. The top, you want to just have it peak just a little bit, just so it looks like it's bent and coming off the paper. And of course, do this how you wish, but just so you have, this is going to be your cover of your book, which you'll attach papers to. Same thing, utilizing back with the rounded rectangle tool. Go above the background because you want the clasps, you want that underneath your base or your cover of your book. And just do a small little rounded rectangle. And again, just make that about 10. Can add a shadow to it. And with the shadow enlarged, just with that, just go ahead and grab that out. Go back to your shadow layer and just grab out the shadow just a little bit on this side with the smudge tool. Now that you have that rounded rectangle for the little clasp done, just right click, rasterize it, and then just do a Control J on a PC. And select that, and then just with your mouse tool, your arrow tool, just the left arrow tool, just go ahead and slide it over till you get to the other side. And now with the shadow, you want to just, using the smudge tool on that top shadow, just bring that in just a little bit so it's not as pronounced. Okay, so then you have your clasp on both sides. And then I just added a circle custom shape, and I grabbed the circle tool here, and I just underneath above the background, underneath the rounded rectangle, I just went ahead and created a circle, and that just added a circle over there. You can Alt and the shadow from the rounded rectangle and just drag that to your half circle or your circle shape, and now you have the clasp, and that's basically what I did there. Alright, so now you want to go ahead and grab your Traveler's Notebook template, and so you want to grab the two templates you want to be working with. So let me go ahead and do that. I've gotten my PSD files for the Traveler's Notebook templates, and I'm using number 4 and number 8. And so I just want to bring those into my working space. Now what you can do, real easy, just go ahead and highlight them all, right click, duplicate layers, and just locate your page, and mine is under the Untitled 2, and just click OK. And as you can see, that has put it here in the workspace. I'm just going to go ahead and slide them all up above the rounded rectangle, and now I want to resize those. Just clicking them all, edit, transform, and scale, and just by dragging on the corners we'll resize them. Okay, and I'm just going to link all of those so they're all together, so they just move all together for me, and get them in place. And now do the same thing with the other template you're going to use on this side. Okay, now that I have them all together here, as you can see, I slid this over so that they match, they're the same size and they line up. The next thing I'm going to do is this real quick, is both of these bottom pages, the white paper. I just want to duplicate that because later we're just going to adjust. I'm just going to the bottom one, I'm just going to unlink, because we're going to make this as the extra page on the left hand side. I'm going to do the same thing at the bottom here with the right hand side. Just go ahead and duplicate the layer. I'm going to unlink that one. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to clip everything for the right side together just by highlighting all the layers, and then clicking on Shift and going up to arrow, and then I'm going to right click and create clipping mask. So now all of this is clipped to that bottom page. I'm going to do the same thing on the left hand side. Is the layer above that white base up to the top, hit the Shift, and then right click the create clipping mask, and that will clip everything to this white base of the Traveler's Notebook template. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a gradient shadow so it will look like the page is bending. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add a new layer, and now I want to make sure that I'm going to go over here to my my colors, my foreground and my background, and if you click on your keyboard, if you select D, that changes it black to white, and that's what we want. We're going to now choose in the tool, the paint bucket tool. We want the gradient tool. It's nestled with the paint bucket tool, And you can also use the shortcut key G, and that will bring up the tool. In the gradient tool, we want this black to transparent. And if you can see, if you click on the drop down arrow, this will give you all of your gradients. And you can even, if you double click on that, it brings up your gradient editor if you wanted to change these colors. But we're choosing the black to white, and we're good with that. So we're on the left hand side of the page, and I want to just go ahead and with my mouse about here, I'm going to take that to about there, just a little bit over on the corner. And if we clip the transparent gradient, as you can see, it has now made it look like there's a fold on that page. Just go ahead and drop it down just a little bit so it's not as dark with your either your fill or your opacity. The opacity is good too. And just by doing that one quick step, you have now created that page look. I want to go ahead and do the same with the other side, with the right hand side. Just go ahead to the top layer on that right hand side, add a new layer, right click, create clipping mask, and now again with the gradient tool, just do it the opposite direction. Just go ahead and just in the center, just go ahead and take it just a little bit in, and that will add the gradient on the other side. Now you want to take that down just a little bit more because your gradients is going to be darker in the center and lighter on the page fold depending upon the direction of the light. So that's how you would do that. The next would be real quick just with the pages. Here I have, this is going to be the left hand side, and I'm just going to use my distort tool, edit, transform, and distort. And with these little corner pieces, I'm just going to bring this down just a little bit. And I'm just going to add a shadow to it, just a page shadow. You can change that later. Page shadow on the layer above. Now you can see there's two pages. And I did the same on the other side. And that's basically all I did as far as how I ended up making this look like different pages. I've added, as I said, papers to this. And then of course all of my embellishments with my photos, and then added the journaling, and there you go. That was a quick way to create a book. So now that I've done all of that, now we'll just go ahead and I will just show you real quick just by undoing the layers here in my layer panel. I will show you how I just real quickly added everything. So I'll just go ahead and unclick them. I've added papers to the background. I've added the papers to the shape with a little bit of a darkened burn tool for dimension. I've gone ahead and I've added some texture to the papers. I've gone ahead and added some black and white to the photos. Gone ahead and add the journaling. I've added the arrows. I've added the paper to the arrows. I've also added the shading. I've added the extra pages. Again, adding the texture to the paper, the photos. And just by adding the elements, all of these things come to life. And there you have it. I've gone ahead and I've recreated just by shadowing and adding a few extra little papers. You end up with this little booklet. So I hope you have fun with this, and can't wait to see yours. Thank you. Till next time.